before everything, I actually have a question. Please raise your hand if you ever heard about DePIN, or if you know what DePIN is and DeWi is. Okay, so literally the entire room. Okay, well, the goal of this presentation that is not working is basically, it's like a very simple introduction to DePIN, to... Sorry. It's okay. It's too fancy. They told me this was the best clicker, but it's too good. All right. So yeah, the goal of this presentation is to be very introductory. What was I going to say? Anyway, my name is Carlos Ley. I'm the founder and CEO at Uplink, and as you can see from this picture, I've been working in IT for a lot of years. But in the past 10 years, I've been working mostly in telecommunications. And as a child that was born in the 90s or early 2000s, I spent an obscene amount of time actually seated in front of my TV just watching anime or cartoons or whatever. And my favorite growing up was actually Dragon Ball. I spent too many hours in front of the screen. Now, one of the reasons why I really like Dragon Ball is because it made me feel involved. There's this scene where Goku, which is like the main character for those of you who don't know Dragon Ball, he used to do these things called the spirit bombs. And I love those. That was when he would basically raise his hands and he will collect the power of anyone else, like from anyone in the universe, from people to animals to nature. And as a child, I used to wait for these episodes and just to be in front of the screen, raising my hands as well, just trying to give all of this energy, just trying to be part of this collective energy that he was doing. I loved it. Made me feel involved. Now, 20 years later, unfortunately, Goku is not real. I cannot give him my power, but I can do something similar. Today, me, all of us, we can join forces, join resources for like a bigger collective good. And that is called DePIN. So DePIN stands for Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Networks. Very complicated. At the end of the day, what it represents is simple. So same way that as a kid, like Goku would get all the energy from everyone, DePIN is similar but using technology. DePIN basically means that we are decentralizing infrastructure, that instead of having one big entity, one big telco, one big whatever that controls all of the infrastructure, everyone can collaborate, everyone can basically give infrastructure to build this bigger system. One of the reasons, so even before that, this is not a new concept. Like the concept of decentralizing like resources, whatever they are, I feel it's been, I don't know, it's been around since the creation of internet. The thing is, until very recently, there's never been the right incentives to that. And right now we're at this point of time, and actually the reason why we're all here is like there's this new amazing tool, this amazing technology called blockchain that can basically help us create the right incentives. And that's what DePIN is. So DePIN is decentralizing connectivity infrastructure, creating the right financial incentives or whatever rewards so that we can build these decentralized systems that are more reliable, can be cheaper, and so on. So DePIN is a big industry. Like, I feel like, I mean, everyone raised their hands, so we all heard about it. Like, we know that we can use DePIN for data storage. We know that we can use it for energy grids. We know that we can do it for decentralizing computing power. But the one that I know and the one that I want to talk about is decentralizing wireless, so DeWi. And DeWi, a lot of people have been talking about it, but I feel that many of us don't fully understand the why. And even before, 10 years ago, before I got into the telco industry, every time I heard about like, oh, let's expand connectivity, whatever, I thought it was always like in areas where internet didn't exist, but that's actually not the case. So before I get into that, I have to do this. So what is DeWi? And I'm going to read this one with you, just so. DeWi is decentralized wireless networks where individuals or small businesses, or even big business actually, use existing infrastructure, like for example, the routers that we have at home, or new small infrastructure, like small cells that we can buy, to create and expand wireless connectivity. So That is DeWi. Like, we all come together, let's use the router I have at home, let's buy something new, let's help expand and build this connectivity. But what I wanted to say is this: many people don't understand why, and there's basically 3 points that I feel they very briefly tell the story on why right now this is so important. A few things are happening right now in the telco market, in the connectivity market. So one, number of devices in the next few years, they're actually gonna more than double. So we're gonna have billion of new connected devices. At the same time, every single device, not only the new ones, but the ones we have today as well, they're gonna be consuming 4 to 5 times more data. At the same time, that price per data is actually gonna lower. Data is becoming almost a commodity. It's gonna lower between 70, even to 90%. I know it says 80, but it's actually up to 90%. So what does it mean? Like, more traction, more demand, more everything, and the data is like actually getting cheaper. It means that the current financial model doesn't make sense. So today, the telcos, the mobile operators, the business model, like if we oversimplify it, is like they spend billions building this infrastructure, that infrastructure gives data, they make money out of it. That model doesn't work anymore. It's broken. We reached the ceiling, basically. And one thing that I feel that not all of us understand is like, today, the connectivity that we have back home, the connectivity we've been having here in Argentina, in the worst case scenario, or if nothing changes, this is actually the best connectivity service we will ever have in our own lives. This is the ceiling. And that scares the shit out of me. Sorry for cursing. But yeah, anyway, that's what we're solving in Uplink. So at Uplink, we're building community-driven, I have to read this one again. Community-driven connectivity infrastructure. So what does it mean? It means that we incentivize people for them to deploy connectivity in areas that we know there's demand for that, and I'll explain more how we do that. And then on the other side, we have businesses, we target businesses or telcos to basically use that connectivity infrastructure. So yeah, we actually started as a Web 2 company. We've been in the connectivity space for too many years. We've started this 8 years ago. We shift for Uplink. Like, we always wanted to do this. Like, we were doing mesh networking protocols, we're connecting things to each other, but we always needed like this internet exit points, and we saw how fragmented it was. And the moment we discovered the benefits and what we could do with blockchain, we were like, okay, let's incentivize. So anyway, for the past 2 years, like, we raised capital, we have Framework Ventures, T-Mobile, we have Avalanche, we have awesome companies on our cap table, and we basically went to them and we said one thing: in the next 18 to 24 months, we want to do the following. We want to work with one of the Fortune 500, one or a few, Fortune 500 companies that we already work with, because we were working before. We want to talk to them. We want to select some areas in the world, and we want to prove our thesis. We want to go there. We want to incentivize people to share connectivity. We're going to incentivize them for this. They're going to consume. Let's see if it goes well. And that's what we did. So the past 18 months, even though, by the way, this is kind of fake, because a big part of the 18 months was actually going through cybersecurity due diligences. But anyway, during the last 18 months, we've been deploying all over South America, and the results were amazing. So we would go, we would incentivize people like, hey, do you want to share connectivity with the router that you have in your cafe, for example, or in your apartment, or whatever, or do you want to actually host a router? We will pay for that. And on the other side, these businesses, they would connect their systems to it. And the businesses that were connected to the Uplink network, they actually saw 82% increase in data transactions. So that means like the devices that were running their systems or their apps, they actually, like, they had 82% more data throughput, which means perform more actions. They actually saw like 45% more connected devices, and depending on what the system was doing, this is actually quite significant. And we actually gave to these businesses, we helped them increase their customers. So we gave them 23% more customers. And this, even though the numbers seem small, this is in regions where they already dominated the market. So it's like, we went somewhere, they already dominated, we're like, let's make connectivity better, your service is better, and they even got more customers because of that. So that's what we wanted to do. Like, we felt we proved our thesis. There's one thing I want to say here is like, we cannot wait to share the names of the companies and what we did. We have a bunch of videos, content, like use cases, even websites coming out. We still have a few NDAs. They're going well. Next few weeks, this is all going to be public, and I cannot wait to share. The traction has been beautiful. But anyway, we feel we proved our thesis. So the thesis is like, If we incentivize connectivity providers, so if there's more connectivity providers, there's going to be user experiences. More user experience, more network demand. More network demand means more money flowing into the network, which will go all the way back to more people wanting to share connectivity. And that's what we saw. That's what we did. Now, how do we do this? Very simple. Like, we're building this ecosystem. We launched this, what, 2 weeks, publicly, we launched this not even 2 weeks ago. We have a world map. It's a marketplace. In one side, we have the companies that need connectivity. They tell us where. We create search mechanisms. On the other side, any single one of us can go there and register their infrastructure. So right now, this platform that we have, and you guys, I actually invite everyone to go there today, you can pre-register your routers. You tell us where. You say, I have a Wi-Fi router here. I want to pre-register it. And we're trying to gamify this for now, and we actually giving points. We're creating like these fun games with points that they will be worth something, maybe. I don't know, for legal reasons I cannot say. And yeah, that's kind of how we've been building this map. The results have been actually amazing. So I feel that every time we talk about DePIN, the centralized infrastructure, it's like, okay, there's the demand side, and we come from Web 2. We know a lot about the demand side. We actually have a waiting list on the demand side. What about the supply? So the supply is like having people actually willing to provide connectivity. And the results have been beautiful. Like no one still knows about us, but in less than 2 weeks, we had more than 40,000 routers, people registering. And we were like, okay, let's see, what about South America? Like we gave extra focus in South America, and just here we had 10,000 registrations, which is amazing. And this is us still being very low profile and still not being able to share the things that we want to share. But the coolest thing, and it was actually our goal to announce this here today, whatever, it's the next application we're launching. So we're launching a mobile app that we'll have on our phones. It can be on your pocket. You're basically walking around. It's pinging every single Wi-Fi network. Like, your phone's already doing this. You don't even need to be connected. It's mapping. It's doing Wi-Fi mapping, and you get points for that. And if you actually connect to that router, it means you're validating it. It means like, hey, this network exists. Here's like the quality of signal. You'll get extra points for now, because we still haven't launched publicly, just on that. And we're trying to gamify this. We're trying to make it super cool. We believe it's going to be amazing. Like, it's going to be fun. And this what allows us to do. It's almost automatic connectivity infrastructure mapping. And the value of that by itself in the industry is priceless. So we want to be a marketplace on that. We want to facilitate people to do this mapping. And then we have the other side that is actually interested in that data. So yeah, why are we doing this and what are we using? Like, this wouldn't be possible without Avalanche. And I know we're here at the Avalanche Summit, but this is actually one thing that we almost never say, but when we started, and I think I mentioned this in the beginning, we started as a Web 2 company. Like, we had customers, we knew what we had to do, we looked into this. It's like, we want to decentralize this, we need to use a blockchain. What do we use? Like, where do we go? We basically had 3 points. Like, one was uptime. That was like the most important. We have deals with enterprises where they basically tell us, like, guys, you need to have 99.9999% uptime. So we're like, okay, if we're building this, if we're using a chain, like, we need uptime. Avalanche seemed good for that. The second one, TPS, obviously. That was like, we expect, and we're already seeing a bunch of transactions. But the third one, and this was actually quite impactful, was also community. So we are new to the game. We are new to Web3. We are new to blockchain. We want to be with communities that we feel that, one, they're here today and they're going to be here tomorrow. And when we start looking to the Avalanche community, when we start looking to the people who are staking, we actually saw that this is one of, like, I think it's around 80% of stakers. They've been doing it for the past 4 years. That's like real commitment. So it was a no-brainer. Then we met the Avalabs team. They're absolutely amazing. And here we are. Like, this was a very brief presentation of DePIN, DeWI. Still have like 4 minutes. If there's any question, let's go. But thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Is there any question? I can bet the first 2 questions. Like,
thank you. how do you handle not small devices, but like long-term, long-distance connections around countries or continents?
So I'm not sure if I understand that question. So what we do is the following. We basically are like, we know the type of connectivity we need in certain places because companies tell us, and we incentivize for the creation of that one. So that model by itself, it kind of doesn't matter if it's Wi-Fi, 5G, whatever. It's like a very simple model. We're just centralizing the infrastructure. So that's like the layer we operate. And then what we do, and like there's a bunch of things I didn't say, and that guy over there can actually answer all of them. He's our VP of product. He's the one who designs all of that part. He's been in connectivity way longer than me, and he's younger. So yeah, we manage that part. On top, what we do is we basically work with standards. Like we are part of most of the alliances. We're actually the only DePIN company in the world. We never say this because it's very techy, but we're the only that we're both ANP and IDP certified from the Wireless Broadband Alliance, which is basically the alliance that manages and like evolves Wi-Fi, and that means that we can use all the standards. We can provide authentication, authorization, accounting, and all of that. So I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah, we're in the layer below and the layers above, what's the frequency, we work with standards. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a different question. So there's a lot of DePIN companies out there doing the same. There's a few others in wireless, and here's what we feel that, or we want to do different. Like we believe that the industry, so we actually believe a few things. One, and this we know, like the telecommunication industry will 100% be decentralized. Like 100%. The business model might differ. We believe this is the right one. But the infrastructure itself, it will be decentralized. It will be smaller, distributed. Whoever owns it, could be us, could be other type of businesses, but it will be decentralized. That's part one. Part two, there needs to be standardization. And right now, and I feel this happens literally every innovation wave, this happens, whereas like someone's coming, oh my God, there's an opportunity, let's do this. I want to be the standard. We don't believe in that. We've been in this game for way too long. That's how we started. We started doing mesh networks, and we're like, let's build the one that's going to be the standard. Doesn't work. You either work with others, and everyone is involved, or it's not going to work. So if we try to do, I don't know, our own standards, if we try to do our own infrastructure and sell it, we don't believe we will succeed in the long term. We might succeed in the short term. We might sell a bunch of hardware and, I don't know, and launch the token and everything is up and everyone is happy, but long term, in terms of businesses, we don't believe it makes sense. So that's like for the second question I feel someone's going to ask. Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about your strategy to reach last mile areas where maybe communities and citizens are underserved, they don't have internet access whatsoever?
Okay, I'll tell you that and even tell more. So what we're trying to do, we basically try to do three things. We have three different stages. And when we talk about last mile, what are we talking about? So first, I mentioned we are not here, like we don't want to be providing connectivity for the end user, for the customer. We want others to build their mobile virtual network operators, use our infrastructure to do it. There's two ways to get there. One, and that's like the stage one, that's mostly what I spoke here. We call it the marketplace stage, where we go to businesses, and we actually work here in some last mile cases. And these businesses were like, we have systems, let's say like payment terminals or IoT devices. Our systems need to work in these regions, last mile connectivity. So what we do there, we create the incentives. We tell them how much that data will cost. We're this middleman. We create the search mechanism there. I confess that in this case, sometimes it was even us, like doing it, but then decentralizing, and like if someone owned it, then whatever. And that's so the local community will do it. But that's going back to the stages, that's stage one, is a marketplace. What happens is, let's say we build infrastructure, or someone deployed infrastructure at places where there was no internet for a specific business. That infrastructure is there. Now you can do something else. Now you can go to a telco and say, hey, you don't have coverage over there, but the community deployed infrastructure, it's using all these standards, so going back to the standards that I was mentioning, do you want to use it to offload your networks? Meaning, do you want to tap into that region without having to invest in infrastructure? And that's been our strategy. So, to the end user. So again, this is like a marketplace, so the end user depends. In one side, in one side it's businesses, so who's going to consume is businesses using their systems. But who's going to deploy, the end user can be people like us. So it's like, it can be consumers, we actually see evolving, and then there's even some small businesses appearing. But yeah, what I want to get is like, if we can do last mile through the consumers being people like us, 100%. You deploy in one place, you deploy another, you deploy another. That's, I cannot go back anymore. But that coverage map that we have, we go to a telco and we're like, look at this, see the coverage? Do you want to offload your network? Do you want to run your services here? Awesome, that's what we do. So the more people, that's why I'm saying, like, pre-register, just tell us, like, we are interested in deploying here with literally the router that I already have. Again, like, that's when I was talking about standards for us, that is critical. Like, so, depends. And I would say 80% of them don't. And the reason why is because we're using the standards. So we're using open roaming, Magma, and a bunch of things that are already there. And your ISP most likely is part of it as well. Would say like 80% of them are. So there's some edge cases, of course, but yeah, most of the hardware that we've been playing with, like you can literally buy it at the store. So yeah. Also yes. Want to answer, Aldrin? It just came from the conference on radius and open roaming, but yeah.
May I steal Carlos for a minute? We need to talk about my Wi-Fi connectivity and how slow it is at home. No, I'm kidding, but I'm sure you can ask more questions. Will you stick around if they have any?
We're doing a side event today, by the way. Everyone's invited. Cool, free drinks. I think it's at 5. It's together with GoGo Pool. So
he looks at me like I have no idea what time it is.
To be honest, I don't even have info. I just know it's at 5. But yeah,
perfect. Thank you so much, Lee.